Welcome to the BetterPears podcast. Join Dr. Jason Fujikawa for his insights on theology, philosophy, culture, and the verbal expressions we use to relate meaning and reality to one another. Make no mistake, this is a podcast for nerds, but particular nerds who are searching for old wisdom made ever new. To learn more about the BetterPears cultural empire, please visit BetterPears.com. Greetings, I am your host, Dr. Jason Fujikawa. This episode on critical thinking might have you thinking critically, or simply thinking. In either case, please do not operate heavy machinery while listening to this episode. Find a comfortable chair and pleasant beverage to enjoy for the next 10 minutes. If you enjoy this production, I ask that you like the episode, subscribe to the podcast if you have not already, and leave us a message in the comments. Your likes, subscriptions, and comments truly help us reach a wider audience. To receive the transcript of each episode and be the first to learn of BetterPears announcements, please sign up to our newsletter at the bottom of the page at BetterPears.com. To view all the podcast episodes arranged by season, episode number, and topic, head over to BetterPears.com/schedule. Each episode on the list is hyperlinked to assist you with sharing a particular insight with family and friends. I would like to offer my gratitude to our audience who watched our big patron and prayer pledge livestream on November 29th. If you happen to miss the stream, the encore video is available on YouTube and Rumble, and the links are in the description. During the live stream, BetterPears launched its first online course designed for current and former intermediate and advanced Latin scholars to read the original Latin of St. Augustine's Confessions with the guidance and assistance of yours truly. To learn more and watch the course introduction, visit the BetterPears homepage at BetterPears.com. On the topic of patronage, the BetterPears Memorare prayer campaign continues. Pledge and report your offered prayers for the success of BetterPears at betterpears.com/memorare. Finally, the BetterPears podcast is offered free through the wonder of the internet, but made possible through the continued contributions of our listener audience. This year, we announced our new crowdfunding program, BetterPears Leaves. The program is simple and some might say elegant in design. Contribute $12 or more each month to BetterPears and receive a thank you gold back in the mail. It's like a Patreon, but with fractional physical gold instead of behind the scenes and blooper reels. If you have been listening to the BetterPears podcast or the Confederate Reserve for some time and recognize that the ideas shared stand out from other offerings of the internet, are worth sharing, and are worthy of your support, this community-driven contribution program is for you. As an additional thank you to our contributors each month from July to December 2024, one lucky supporter will receive a free BetterPears mug of his or her choice from the BetterPears market, in addition to the monthly goldback. To learn more, contribute, and read official rules, visit betterpears.com/giveaway. Thank you for your continued patronage of attention, prayers, and Federal Reserve notes. And now, on with the episode. Season 3, Episode 10, Critical Thinking. All the world's a stage, and all the men and women merely players. Hypocrites, every last one. Aristotle's word for dramatic actor in his Poetics is, surprisingly, hypocrites, which is not so much a comment on their moral rectitude, but rather their status generally as human beings. The actors in ancient dramas portrayed pagan gods and potent monarchs. The actors, often behind the masked visage of their characters, had not the potency in their dicta. The strength, or kratos, expressed here as krites, thus lacking, results in the prefix hypo, in English, hypo. Might and strength, like that sought by so many a tragic protagonist, is still sought on worldly stages both great and small, wielded under the guise of criticism and the modifier critical. Proponents of critical thinking believe that the ability to dismiss or disregard data and arguments which are faulty, irrelevant, and unduly biased is the liberating process for minds young and old. What remains to be proven is that such a process of critical thinking is distinct from the pursuit of truth by thinking generally understood. Is the championing of critical thinking a Pyrrhic victory, reducing the essence of thinking in general, just as justice has been diminished by the pleonastic modifier social? Does the rise of critical thinking correlate to a decline in intellectual traditions, thinking in common, thinking in which kratos, the cudgel of private judgment, asserts free will at the cost of isolating ideas and siloing discourse. Notably, the modern discourse on method is conducted by Descartes in the solitude of an empty, stove-heated room, while the ancient writings of Plato are pitched in open dialogue. The teachings of Aristotle are strewn as a diligent pupil's lecture notes. Critical thinking, as a solitary endeavor in the court of personal bias, Greek biē for force, and opinion opined without certitude, is as fruitless as solitary prayer, that is, prayer to no one. While the spiritual masters of the Christian world have at times sought the solitude of the desert, their prayer, unlike Descartes' cogito, was never solely their own. Like the broader intellectual tradition in which they participated, the truth of their thoughts, the interlocutor of their prayer, was always a who more so than a what. Who is truth is always the arbiter of thoughts and thinking. Whatever power, force, or kratos is brought into this thinking must come from him, remain grounded in him, if we are to become anything more than hypocrites. So transducive is the accurate disposition of kratos in all things critical. The art critic must articulate correspondence to the order and form of transcendent beauty, and not the aberrations of fallen sense and sensibility. The critic of public policy, of leadership, and the man in the arena must remain grounded in what is true and good, from which authentic criticism finds its source and summit, its origin and end. What, then, of thinking, since its modifier must remain in this manner grounded? What of the mind and its manner of operation, which seems so vital to life, examined or otherwise? Perhaps two distinctions among many possible will best benefit our present inquiry. The first distinction is between two verbs, skio and nosko, a distinction more noted among speakers of Romance languages, though still expressed in English between knowing and recognizing. This distinction is expressed by Blaise Pascal's famous couplet, Le cœur a ses raisons que la raison ne connaît pas. The heart has reasons that reason does not know. Our hearts are tied to recognition, and perhaps even cognition, in which the cumulative prefix cog, assimilated from the Latin preposition cum, is grafted unto nosco. Skio and its derivative scientia, or science, is the knowing of sensible signs and logical notions. Skio is our window into the world in which we found ourselves as infants, a window, so it seems, separated by glass to the point that even the conglomeration of science, or conscience, remains, to an extent, notional, its logic verbally explicable. Recognosco, however, is the home and hearth worn smooth by repetition, habit, and repose. I think of my mother not as the composite result of her genetic markers relative to mine, nor even the logical conclusion of my familial arrangement. She is recognized as the home and succor I will never outgrow, who by repetition and resolve has consistently willed my good in all life's stages. Thus, thinking can express by this admittedly broad distinction both knowing of, skio, and knowing through, nosco. The second distinction is in our understanding of the acts of the mind itself. St. Thomas Aquinas, among others in his day, held that there were two distinct acts of the mind, intellegere and judicare, that is, understanding and judgment. Understanding, intellegere, answers the question, what is it? If we imagine a figure approaching us from a distance, our first thought is the question, what is it? Is it a person, a man, my best friend, and so on with greater specificity? The second act of the mind, judicare, is the judgment of the truth of the first answer. Is it so? This question admits of three answers: yes, no, and maybe, if the information remains insufficient. The ordered beauty of this bifurcation between understanding and judgment is that judgments can be changed as understanding improves or is corrected. The danger lies in the conflation of these mental acts into one, as offered by blessed Duns Scotus, a subsequent thinker to St. Thomas Aquinas. Scotus presents a simplex apprehensio, in which judgment immediately arises from understanding in a unified act of the mind. In this way, seeing really is believing. The problem here, in the realm of rather abstract theoria, is the same in our current epoch of public discourse. There is no space for incorrect judgment, since judgment is grafted to the entire intellectual apparatus. The modern problem is that if I am wrong, my entire intellect, and me as a purported Cartesian intellect trapped in a bodily machine, is wrong. Such people cannot have erroneous ideas. They can only be erroneous people. Pitched in such a battle, logos gives way to kratos, and critical thinking becomes the watchword and currency of thought oppression. The way out of the critical thinking arms race is not by more impressive credentials, bigger megaphones, or higher speaking platforms. It is rather a radical realism rooted in regal authority, founded by the actor or auctor, who is not acting yet pure act. Critical thinking, or what our betters termed simply thinking, must begin at the beginning and discover again the worth of words, that is, their truth, even if that requires casting one step, 1 foot, 1 pod at a time. The views expressed by BetterPears contributors are theirs alone, and do not necessarily reflect the views of BetterPears, its parent company, or any company or organization affiliated with the contributors. For more information, to support BetterPears, or to shop for BetterPears merchandise, please visit betterpears.com.